A bill calling for a special statewide alert when a police officer is shot or wounded was introduced at the legislature this past week. The proposed blue alert system would use the same technology as an amber alert, which is triggered when there is a child abduction. The bill was proposed the very same day that David Michael Winters, a man with a long criminal history, had a shootout with police in St. Louis Park and then led officers on a day-long manhunt that ended with him taking his own life. Now, the week before, Ray Kometz, who has a long history of mental illness, shot and wounded two police officers outside a New Hope City Council meeting. Both Winters and Kometz were barred under state and federal law from possessing guns, yet they were able to get their hands on them. The Hennepin County Sheriff's Department helped coordinated the massive law enforcement response to both incidents. And Sheriff Rich Stanek is joining me now. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, good morning.
All right, I know you've expressed concerns about guns in the hands of people that should not have them. Where did David Michael Winters get his gun?
You know, it appears that gun tracks back about 35 years that it last surfaced. So somewhere over the last 35 years, that gun was transferred and made its way to David Michael Winters. As you know, he was a prohibited person and should have never have had access to a firearm.
All right. This came just a week after another incident that your office and your officers responded to at New Hope City Hall, in which two officers were shot and wounded. Other officers were able to shoot and kill Ray Kometz. What have you learned about the way Ray Kometz was able to get his gun?
Again, Ray Kometz was someone who was prohibited under state law from owning a firearm. And so he used what we call a straw purchaser, someone else, a third party, this one, Mr. Garant, to go in and make the purchase of 3 long guns, 3 shotguns for him, and one of those guns was used in the deadly shooting.
All right, and obviously this week we had the verdict in the Brian Fitch case, another convicted felon who had access to a deadly weapon. Is Minnesota doing enough to enforce the laws that say these people can't have these guns?
Well, I think we have very strict laws on the books. We also need, though, to enforce those laws. So those who are law-abiding and obey the laws, they aren't punished as well. So those that have guns illegally, they should absolutely be taken to task and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
All right, let's talk about the Ray Kometz situation, because he actually purchased the gun online, filled out in his own name apparently, and then had Michael Garant go pick it up. It was legal for Michael Garant to pick up that weapon. However, Michael Garant lied on the application and said the gun was for himself. Do you think people should be able to use a different name online than the name they use when they're picking a weapon up?
No, I do not. And I think best practices from the federal firearm license dealers around here, the metro area, says just that if you use a name online to purchase a firearm, that better be the name, your true and legal name that you use then to also run the NICS background check.
Okay, but that's not actually what the law says. You can use a different name or a handle. In terms of just the situation, you know, you obviously were involved in both of these. There has to be a feeling that they were very fortunate that not something far more serious didn't happen.
Well, I think, you know, both in the, the Kometz case turned out tragic. Mr. Kometz ended up being shot and killed by police officers after he wounded 2 police officers. In terms of Winters, I think the officers are very fortunate. But again, these are all cases in which people who are prohibited from owning firearms should have never had access to those firearms. And I think no matter what side of the issue you're on, you agree that straw purchasers should not be allowed to transfer those firearms to someone who is prohibited.
All right, you've been in the legislature. Is there anything more? Would a new law help?
You know, I don't think this is an issue of creating new law. I think this is an issue of enforcing current law. I think that the United States Attorney, the predecessor, did not prosecute as well as he should have. We're fortunate now to have Andy Lugar as the United States Attorney. He took this case on from day one. He got this case charged out. He has a good working relationship with local law enforcement. As far as prosecutors in the state, they need to enforce the laws that we currently have on the books.
All right, so and Michael Garant has been charged in federal court for violating the law here. In terms of, you know, looking back, what are some of the things that stand out about both these incidents?
Well, 3 things. One, a number of not illegal guns, but people who possess guns illegally out on the streets. 2, law enforcement's interactions with those who suffer from untreated mental illness. They are great concern, and we see this time and time and time again involved in these shootings or suicides. And then 3rd is alcohol and drugs. Every single one of these incidents involves some type of alcohol, drugs to excess, or the illegal nature of them.
All right. Well, Sheriff Rich Stanek, thank you so much for coming in. It's always a pleasure.
My pleasure.